Get on up in here. We're going in today, people. We're gonna clarify this. Just give me 1 minute for folks to come up in here and get this truth. We're gonna clarify this bullshit today. That's cool. Share it. Share it everywhere. I'm coming. Stay tuned. We about to be entertained and enlightened and dispel these Afrocentric fallacies. And we're going to make this clear, and no longer should people continue to lie to you. And if they lie to you, you should be pissed with them. We're going in 30 seconds. Yeah. Stay tuned. I'm coming. Hey. All right. Chief X coming at you with that common sense science. The wise man. See, I keep telling people I'm not a scholar. I'm a wise man. And a wise man will beat the brakes off a scholar because he uses that common sense science. So, check this out. We're talking about the difference between the Egyptian and the Nubian, right? And they were not the same people, okay? Now, I'm holding my phone towards my tablet, so it may be a little shaky. I'm having problems going live on my desktop, okay? So, the difference between a Nubian and an Egyptian. And it's a huge difference. They are not the same people. So, for decades, what we call Afrocentrics have been teaching a lot of misinformation, trying to blend falsehoods with truth and confuse you. And I've been saying this for the last 3 years, right? Because I was a victim of miseducation and a victim of believing historical theft. Okay? I'm no longer a victim, so I sought out to tell the truth. See, Chief X likes strict history, and I always call myself a sincere truth seeker. See, you have people who claim to be truth seekers, but they're not sincere truth seekers. They cherry pick what they want people to believe. Okay? So, the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, they depicted who the Nubians was. Always. Okay? So, what we African Americans, now black, the word black is a social construct. Okay? It doesn't apply in all areas. We as African Americans use the word black to refer to people. Okay? Africans in the continent don't refer to themselves as black. They'll say, I'm Ghanaian. I'm Nigerian. I'm Sudanese. I'm Ethiopian. Okay? We, over here in America, as black Americans, have the confusion, and we use that word, and it's a social construct. Understand that. So, the Egyptians depicted the Nubians unlike themselves. At times, they were enemies, and at times they did trade and business and vibed together. But a lot of times they were at odds. And when the when the Egyptians depicted the Nubians, they depicted Nubians like that. That is what the Egyptians would consider, if we're using the term black, that's what the Egyptians would consider a black man. This was not an Egyptian, this was a Nubian. And the Egyptians put them on the bottom of their shoe, meaning they're stomping on them and stepping on them. They had wars against each other. The Egyptian, this is just kind of common sense. The Egyptian didn't enslave himself. The Egyptians enslaved, enchained, and fought with and captured another people. And this is that people that they captured, chained, prisoners of war. Is this right here the Nubian? This is how Egyptians depicted black people. Now we get into the talk, yes, Egypt was a melting pot because of its location. So you see brown and melanated people, and people are just melanated in general. But we confuse the artwork. But we're not going to be confused today. We're going to be clear on who the Egyptians depicted the Nubian to be. They were stepping on them. As in, you're my subjects and below me. You're under my feet. At times they had disdain for this Nubian. He wasn't an Egyptian, it's a Nubian. Now, we go some more images of who they chained and enslaved. This is a Nubian captive. This is an Egyptian's Asiatic captive. As you see, they're bound. Okay, we resume. My phone is tripping. Okay. So, they had them on the bottom of their feet. These were their enemies. The Nubian and the Asiatic. They're stomping on them. So, once we go back, and we're going to look at some other images. What are they doing here? These are the Egyptians on this chariot and the horse. And what they're doing again to the Nubian They stomping on them, riding on them. Because they were a different people, not the same people. This is the Egyptian who was melanated, possibly mixed, possibly not. But this is not what was considered, this is not what considered a black person. These were considered a black people to the Egyptians. As you see, they have the leopard skin on them. And the Egyptian is riding and stomping on the Nubians. Let's continue. This is what the Egyptians depicted as the Nubians. And in this picture, they're giving offering and paying homage to who? The Egyptian, not themselves. Okay? These are original depictions of the Nubian. Here goes the Egyptian. About to smite this Nubian. These were not the same people, or what we would say race today. They were different. And they considered the Nubian lower than themselves, a subordinate. Just like all of North Africa, and even on the northwest side of Africa, with the Berbers, which their real name is the Amazigh people. But a lot of people call them Berbers. So since you guys know them by Berbers, I will use Berber and Amazigh interchangeably. Okay? They enslaved West Africans also. This is the Nubian being smited by the Egyptian. They're not the same people. And you guys should not let these Afrocentrics lie to you anymore. We're going to make this clear. Here again, the Nubian captive bound and the Asiatic captive bound. The enemies of the Egyptians. Because I'm sick of these people playing games and playing picture games with you and cherry picking pictures and confusing you. For decades, Afrocentrics have cherry picked pictures and they're flooded on the internet and Google, and you can't distinguish between an Egyptian, a Nubian, and an Asiatic because of the Afrocentrics' deceit in teaching revisionist fake-ass history. Trying to fit in to help the African Americans' self-esteem. Nubian, Asiatic, both captives and enemies of the Egyptians. They were different people. Share this video if you like. People need to know. Here we go again, some more Nubians. This is the Nubians to the Egyptians. This is what Egyptians would consider black people. A close-up of the Nubians. And they're in the line in giving honor to the Egyptians, paying homage here. Okay? Now, to be clear, that's the Nubian to the Egyptians. This is what a black person was to the Egyptian. And you see what's on her neck? A chain. Bound. So I really don't know why people were getting on Shaka Amos when he said that Egyptians practiced slavery, and everybody clowned Shaka Amos. But Shaka Amos was halfway right. Captured Nubians and ones paying homage. captured Nubians, and these Nubians are paying homage to who? The Egyptians. Another people, not themselves. Okay? If anyone is confused, they shouldn't be. This is common sense science. If anyone is telling you otherwise, this truth hurts their feelings. And they don't want to be seen like this. So they twist the story and twist history to fit themselves in because they want to be considered a sexy people. See, Egypt is sexy to people. Everything else wasn't sexy. Okay? Let's go on. Here we go here. Ask the Afrocentrics why they lied to you. It didn't explain this. These are the Egyptians. He's taking notes and recording all these Nubians that they got captured and enslaved and about to put them to work. The Egyptians captured Nubians. The Egyptians didn't capture themselves. The Nubians weren't slaves of Nubians. They were slaves and captives of the Egyptians. Okay? Let's make that fucking clear. That's how the Egyptians depicted Nubians with a rope on their neck. Now, I'm not making this video to be disparaging. I'm just a person who likes strict history. And I want my people to be proud West Central Africans and stop claiming other people's culture. That's my whole intent. My intent is righteous. Other people's intent is deception. We're not even this. We're not even the Nubian. That's a different people. A Filipino lady and a Mexican lady doesn't consider themselves to be the same people just because they have similar hair and similar skin tone. African Americans are only people who do that. Because someone has similar skin and similar hair, oh, that's me, that's us. No, it's not. You have a totally different genetic makeup and structure. This is a Nubian and what Egyptians depicted. So if someone tells you the Nubians and Egyptians were the same people, you tell them to kiss your ass and stop lying to you. Because you know better. These are more Nubians captive. Nubians being trampled on by the Egyptians during war and invasions and things of that nature. They were fighting against each other. Now, don't get me wrong, there were times where there was peace. There were times where they got along and traded and stuff, but people knew their place. Don't come up in here with that bullshit, in other words. They knew their place. And throughout them 1,000 or whatever you want to call it, 4,000 years, the Nubians only reigned for 100 years of that time period. And that's just the 25th dynasty. Then they got their ass beat again and got pushed out. This is just raw history. It's not meant to make you feel bad, or it's meant to wake you up and see reality. See, now here's some more Nubians, but this is the catch. A lot of times when the Nubians did rule Egypt for that 100-year brief period out of thousands of years, they developed artwork while I was there and had statues. So sometimes people would say, see, the Egyptians were black. See, the Egyptians. No. Those are Nubians. And they have statues and artworks of Nubians during the time that they reigned in Egypt. So people will confuse you and say, "Oh, this is an Egyptian," but that's really some Nubian artwork. But you don't know the difference because you're not wise enough to combat an intelligent person who knows history but's being deceptive. There goes the Nubians in the prior picture. Let me show you. When this one says captured Nubians and one's paying homage, that's a captured Nubian. These are other Nubians paying homage to the Egyptians. So when we get here, this is the front of him. They're paying homage. Look at the Nubian, prostrated on the ground, bowing down to what was superior to him at that time, or ruling. They're paying homage to the Egyptian. This is a 1900 photo of Nubians, kids, adult Nubians. Here's the procession when they were paying homage. These are Nubians. Look who's on the cart, riding, and look who's on their feet walking. Now, I'm not a scholar where I can just break down all the particulars of this, but I can just use my fucking common sense. It's like in the back in slavery days when Master was on a horse and he made the slaves walk while he was on the damn horse. That's basically common sense, similar to what it was. Prostrating. These type ain't prostrating and all on the ground paying homage. These Nubians are. Let's continue. There it is. Now, Chief, that's just not lying. They lying to you. They're captives. All around their neck, chained up. That's what Egyptians depicted as black people. I wouldn't call the Egyptians black people. I would say it's a melting pot of people. But just from what I know, they were just a mix of, how can I put it? To me, they were a Mediterranean people. And those North Africans have been there for at least 12,000 years. 12,000 years is before the building of the pyramids, before the Sphinx. Those North Africans, these aren't North Africans. These are Nubians. African Americans aren't North Africans. We're West Central Africans. There go the Nubian. So if you ask, how did Egyptians depict black people? That's how they depicted them. They know who black people was. You don't. And that's my business. But let's go. Let's talk some more. So, I bought this book. We Can't Go Home Again, an argument about Afrocentrism by Clarence E. Walker. Get this book. I love this book. He's sick of Afrocentrics also. And when you open the book, it's basically saying what I've been saying for 3 years. Niggas acting like I don't read and shit. I got books on every subject. So, when you go into it, let's see what Clarence is talking about. Clarence says, Let me make this clear. What it says is a therapeutic mythology designed to restore the self-esteem of Black Americans by creating a past that never was. You were never the Egyptian. You were never the Egyptian. It's a therapeutic mythology, let me zero in, designed to restore the self-esteem of Black Americans by creating a past that never was. All this shit started back from Dr. Ben on. And then we go further into the book, and what does it say here? It talks about my professor, Dr. Amos Wilson, who I said is my favorite scholar, African-American scholar of all times. And I always told people, Dr. Amos Wilson, they didn't really fuck with Dr. Amos Wilson in his day. And he was in New York living with all the other Afrocentrics who was miseducating Black people and revising history. But they didn't really fuck with Dr. Amos Wilson. That's why you won't never hear a lot of these scholars mention Dr. Amos Wilson names. Malefi Asante, all these people never repped and gave Dr. Amos Wilson credit. Because Dr. Amos Wilson was a real one. That's why I keep telling you, Dr. Amos Wilson is my favorite. He was about correcting and helping Black people's minds and helping them think better. He was a psychologist, not a historian. Dr. Amos Wilson was a psychologist. And Professor Amos Wilson says, if you respect him, because I do, Wilson, a psychologist, calls this theft of history. Amos Wilson, a psychologist, calls this theft of history. Amos Wilson was like me back in the day. What is these niggas talking about? You don't never hear Amos Wilson talking about we some Egyptians. Then it goes on right here. African, Southwest Asia, Mediterranean types. It is also clear that the further south or up the Nile one goes, the blacker and more Negroid the population becomes. And that this has been the case for some time. What is he talking about? Self-esteem. Self-esteem in Afrocentric discourse. See, I highlight shit and study when I read. Afrocentrism, it says, Afrocentrism at one time may have been innocent and devoid of political ramifications, but this is not the case today. So when they started, sometimes people just naively didn't know, and they were just going off of pictures and how things looked and features and shit. Sometimes they just honestly didn't know. But today we know because the genome has been mapped in the 70s. So when Ivan Van Sertima is kicking all that shit, stealing Olmec history and things like that, that was before the genome was mapped. So now we know better. Science says, no, you weren't the Olmecs. Okay? You weren't here in the Americas. I even tell people this. The ancient Egyptians, no matter how brilliant you think they are, I told people to prove this to me. I said the ancient Egyptians didn't even know there was a Western Hemisphere. And people are like, X, what the fuck, Chief X? Oh, I said, someone proved that the ancient Egyptians knew that there was even a Western Hemisphere. The West Africans didn't even know there was a Western Hemisphere. People didn't know. That's why they called it what? the New World. The New World, they called it. Shit was barren up around here. It was an ice age covering half of North America called the Laurentine Ice Sheet. Look it up. Laurentine Ice Sheet. Wasn't nobody living on that ice. And then the East Asian genetic type, which we call the Native American today, came in through the Bering Straits. From East Asia into Alaska, Russia, Siberia, and from Alaska into Canada, and on down into the states we call now, then on down into the Caribbeans, in Mexico, and started their culture. And this is why when you... Oops, I don't want nobody to see my password. Hold on. And this is why when they find what they call uncontacted tribes in the Amazon jungle in Brazil, when they run into uncontacted tribes, those were the people that have been there for thousands of years. Okay? And none of them, not one uncontacted tribe that was revealed in them Amazon jungles in Brazil, not one tribe ever had nappy, kinky hair. Because you niggas wasn't in the Western Hemisphere. You guys was in Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa, to be specific. The Sahara Desert prevented a lot of West Africans, Central Africans from going up north, so they didn't inhabitate them lands. The Amazigh did, and they've been there for 12,000 years. These are the Nubians on the ground, getting smited, getting ragdolled. And I don't say this to be disparaging, but you need to hear the raw truth. The Egyptian and the Nubian are not the same people. They're different. Nubian captive in an Asiatic. Now, remember I showed you the shoe? They were stepping on these Nubians and Asiatics. Let's go see. This is the same thing, basically. But the others were female. They're stepping on the Nubian and the Asiatic. Daniel Russell, just trust me, bro. And trust the experts. I'm not the expert, but the experts agree with me. Anybody else telling you anything does not know history and is running a game. This is not new info either. This is old as dirt. They're stepping on the Nubian. That's how they depicted black people. Now let me read some comments and let's talk. What up, Aku? You still there? Right, and just let me just to add on, the Nubians didn't have a written language until later. The Egyptians influenced them, and then they had a written language called the Meroitic. But the North Africans always had, not always, but they had a written language. the writing system, should I say. Okay? So most sub-Saharan Africans didn't have a writing system. And I'm not saying that they were dumb at all. Or some people just didn't develop certain things for a while, or maybe didn't care. So I was telling people that Africa got colonized. If we want to just give one brief, let's give two. When we just give two basic reasons, Africa was chopped up, carved up, and divvied out and colonized. It's because the Africans lacked scientific literacy. No, excuse me. I said that all wrong. I'm sorry. I will say the Africans weren't as scientific literate as some other cultures. Not saying that certain cultures sometimes just develop something before another culture does. That's just life. The Africans weren't as scientifically literate, and they were politically naive and got conquered. Now, if they were scientifically literate and engaging with gunpowder and doing trade with Asians and stuff and had developed gunpowder and a gun and shit, then they could have saved getting colonized and chopped all up. But they weren't as a more scientifically literate people will conquer a people who's not as scientifically literate. And this is why I tell people the Portuguese were the first to advance shipbuilding technology. They just were. It was not a big thing. I mean, the Portuguese were the first to advance shipbuilding technology. Now, I said this before. Oh, the Africans had... I didn't say the Africans didn't have ships. I said the Portuguese were the first people to advance shipbuilding technology. And they were able to build boats that were able to cross large body oceans. Once that technology was developed to cross large body oceans, then that's when you began to see human trafficking on a large scale across oceans, and the slave trade began. And the Portuguese developed this, I'm going to say, around 1390. By the time 1450 and 1490 come here, they had kind of got it down, and then they began human trafficking. The Africans had, and the Native Americans, they had canoes, basically. Some Africans in ancient Egypt had boats, but if you really look at them, they're just a glorified canoe. I wouldn't call it a ship. I was in the Navy, so I wouldn't call what they had a ship. If Native Americans were more advanced and were doing all, they would have had a ship. They didn't. They never seen a ship. Until the Portuguese came, whoever, the Europeans came over there with ships, bringing people and visiting and, they had canoes. They weren't able to cross a large body ocean in a canoe. A canoe or them boats in ancient Egypt could not cross no large body ocean. I'm a Navy man. I know this. We had waves coming all over our head, and we in big old steel large ships. And we're rocking 45 degrees in a huge, large steel ship in the Navy. When them big ships go out to sea, those smaller Navy ships, they'll be doing 45-degree turns. I remember when we went to, we was going through the China Sea one time when I was in the Navy on a Westpac. I went to China, Korea, Hong Kong, Japan, Tokyo, Philippines, all them places. I've been around. That's why I'm trying to teach y'all. I got life experience. So we going through the sea in a storm for a week, and it takes a while to get places because we're doing drills out in sea. And this boat, for 3 days, rocking 45-degree turns. We had to sleep with our arms and legs all wide and straightened out so we won't roll out of bed when we're asleep. The mess hall, the kitchen on the ships was towed up because plates and everything is falling all off the racks and shit. They had to tie all that shit down. Waves come hit you so hard sometimes and go over the entire ship. So let a canoe get up out there, you're dead. That's why in the Mansa Musa story, in the story of Mansa Musa, which is a mythological story, when they say Mansa Musa had an army that of 200 something ships make it to America, that's straight bullshit. Because the story will tell you all them ships drowned, except the one that came back to tell them people that the ships got destroyed. Guess why? Shit, them waves hit your ass, you're dead. It hit that boat, everybody's popping up out of a boat. It's like you sitting in the back of a pickup truck. And a diesel hit your pickup truck. Everybody that's standing or sitting in the back of that pickup truck is flying in the air and out that truck to their death. And you're going to fly out that canoe into that freezing cold water in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean and freeze to death, and no one's going to save you. So they all died in the story of Mansa Musa trying to come to America, because them ships cannot cross no large body ocean. I done made videos about this, and I had Navy buddies telling you ignorant people, no, that ship won't make it across no large body ocean. Now, you had that guy, Hurl, who did it and revamped the ship or whatever, but he did it in a time the technology was different. They had weather control. They knew what the weather would be. They had escorts, rough weather. They knew when it was coming. And, it was a different time. So, yeah, in that time he did it for whatever reason. And then the other Pacific Islands, they were just island hopping. They wasn't crossing no huge, large body ocean. They was island hopping in calm waters. So them canoes and them ships in Africa, and the oldest boat we know of found in Nigeria is a canoe-looking boat. Them boats can't cross no large body oceans. I'm sorry, the Portuguese developed shipbuilding technology that advanced. Now let's get back to this shit. We're going to go through this one more time and I'm done. These are the Nubians getting trampled by the Egyptians. The Egyptians was not trampling their own people. They were trampling another people, which is the Nubians. Don't let nobody tell you any different. This is the Nubians paying homage to who? The Egyptians, not themselves. This is the Egyptian smiting the Nubian, a different people. This is the enemies of the Egyptians, the Asiatic and the Nubian. Captive. Nubians. Nubians. Nubians, chain around her neck. Captured Nubians, and one's paying homage. Nubians, captured by the Egyptians, smiting their ass, spanking their ass. They weren't the same people. Nubian, chained up. This is how the Egyptian depicted black people. The Hotep hustle is over. The Hotep hustle is over. Trampled. And who were they trampled by? The Egyptian. They were trampled by who? The Egyptian. Trampled on. Stomping on them. Stomping on them. Got them all haywire. Driving daggers into their ass. Nubian dynasty. Not Egyptian. Paying homage to the Egyptian. They even put a brown Nubian and a dark Nubian. And when you see that kind of hat and that feather and look. Nubian kids, 1900 photo. 1900 photo of Nubian adults. No, I would call these Sudanese, not Nubian. Okay? And yes, just to be clear, the Nubians did do trade and went all up and down the Nile. Let's just go here real quick. You know what? Hold on. We're going to just do this map right here. See, when you don't have a map, you stay confused because you don't have an idea about geography and how it works. Okay? Afrocentrics want you to believe. They want you to believe that this is their land, or that they were there, or that we are somehow related to these Egyptians. But all while ignoring... Hold on, let me turn my light on. They always talk about here. Here. They always talk. This is North Africa. All this is North Africa. Even Mauritania's got Northwest Africa, but they consider all this North Africa. The Sahara Desert is right here. It's basically, not that literally, but it's basically a barrier to getting here. So everybody want to claim here, but they always ignore this. Algeria and Libya. They ignore Morocco. They ignore Tunisia. They don't say, hey, we were Tunisians. They don't say we was Algerians. They don't say we were Libyans. They only want to steal this part of North Africa. That's what they want to steal. That's what the entire world thinks is the sexiest. So you got whites, blacks, everybody trying to claim Egypt. And these people have been here, all around here, for at least 12,000 years. When these Sphinx and pyramids was built up here, the North Africans built it, not sub-Saharan Africans. These people had no idea that it was even pyramids over here. They didn't travel. When I went to Ghana, the Ghanaian scholars told me our ancestors didn't move around a lot. They stayed right there. They set up camp and lived right here. They weren't traveling and running around. When you guys talk about travel, you're talking about human migration. A lot of these people in Ghana were forest people. They didn't know what was going on this side of the world. They had no clue it was pyramids here. People fantasize people too much. So everybody wants to steal right here. And the only reason that all those Nubians I showed you began to have pyramids later in Different is because they had a closer connection to Egypt because of the Nile River that ran up and down here. So Sudanese or Nubians or Kushites or whatever the fuck you want to call them, they were lucky enough, unlike these other Africans, these Africans were a little more privileged. The Nubians. They were a little more privileged to be able to run up this Nile and interact and trade with these North Africans. So that's why you'll see dark Egyptians and mixed cultures, and this was a melting pot of people who were coming from all over. They were coming from West Asia, the Mediterranean people, all these people, and this was a hodgepodge of people, but it wasn't you. The only reason you're not dark, they're not all dark and stuff over here, but over here is because you were mixing and traveling up that Nile and doing trade and stuff. So you were just lucky, but these people weren't you. You're not even a Nubian. They have a different genetic makeup than West Africans. Get that book. See, people think I would just be talking. The Art of Egypt. I got books. Ancient Egypt. Now, I don't go deep and all and try to be all technical. I couldn't tell you what dynasty was what and all that. I just get some basic information for myself and get some basic understanding and use my common sense. Okay? I know about the art of Egypt. I'm not just talking shit. They don't show you these kind of pictures ever. They don't show you shit like this. They don't show you this one. They cherry pick them. They don't show you this one. They cherry pick. And let me just do this real quick. Where's that picture at? Let me just break this down. Hold on. They don't show you that one too much? Wait a minute. This is one I really just want to talk about. Oh, do they show you this ancient one? Ask them why they didn't show you that one. This bowl. 1370 BC. Why they didn't show you that one? Now, here we go. This is what I wanted to talk about. And I'm done. We're going to talk about this one. And I'm done. Hold on. That's Queen Nefertiti. But people keep lying and saying that's her hair. And that's an afro. No, it's not no goddamn afro. That's a wig. And the uraeus crown was right there. You see the two holes? This is a good picture of it. Not no blurry shit y'all be looking at. And they have a band around the uraeus right here. The broken off snake head. And you take this motherfucking thing off, it's a wig. They don't show you the other pictures of Queen T looking like a European. They only show you this one of Queen T. Because they play in your mind and make you thinking that's an afro. When it's not, it's in a wig. See, these Afrocentrics can't play with me. They don't never show you that one. Because the niggas will tell you, X ain't got no books, he just be talking. Chief X ain't just be talking. I got books. I got books. I got books. I support all these niggas' books. I got books. When I went to Ghana, I bought this book. It's become one of my favorite books. The History of Indigenous Slavery in Ghana. When I went to the slave castles, I told people, Ghanaian scholars teach differently than African American scholars. They don't have a problem telling you slavery was going on 1,000 years before the white man even touched the damn ground. They told me a white man stepped up in there and kind of learned indigenous systems, indigenous slavery from them. When them Portuguese and them white boys touched them shores, they seen some Africans was being enslaved by their own people. And I guess we think, damn, they got slaves. Maybe they'll let us buy some slaves. And African chiefs and the Portuguese and the Dutch and stuff, they got together and built them slave castles. How you think they got built? They was hustling together and making money. Them slave castles, dungeons, was a combination of African chiefs getting together, getting labor, getting black African slaves, and warring all that gold in Ghana and shit. Who you think mined it? African slaves? They was mining gold and slavering before Europeans touched the continent. Then Europeans got there and started trading and getting some gold. That was mined by who? Slaves. In Ghana. The Ghanaian scholars told me this. When I left the slave dungeon in Ghana, when I visited, when you leave, it's a few scholars be in the hallways and shit selling the books that they wrote from their traditions. And they told me this. So this is not just Chief X saying it. I'm just telling you what the Ghanaian scholars told me. And I bought their books. I read them all. See all the outlining? Chief X reads and studies. Look, slaves were often regarded as part of a person's personal, private property. Anything Chief X ever told you was some real shit. You guys just couldn't accept it. I'm telling you, I'm a strict, sincere truth seeker. I'm not here to help your self-esteem. I'm here to tell you raw history. You should already have high self-esteem. It's 2021. What up, Aku? I'm just reading some comments. You know. But this is the last book I bought. Because I was sick of these Afrocentrics. I wanted to see the mindset and why they doing this. And let me go to the doctor. Dr. Clarence Walker. See, what I did was I said, you know what? I no longer listen to conscious community people talk. I don't even call them scholars. These niggas don't even have a bachelor degrees, but call themselves a scholar. Ain't never wrote a dissertation, but call themselves a scholar. Ain't never taught a college course, but call themselves a scholar. That's why Chief X been for you. I'm not no scholar. I don't fake the front. They do. Chief X is your help and the realest in this motherfucking conscious community. If you don't think so, others led you astray from knowing that. If anybody's hating on Chief X, it's because Chief X is too fucking real for these niggas. And birds of a feather flock together, but they can't flock with me. I'm on another level. I'm the wise man who beats the brakes off of scholars. That's who I am. Don't fuck with a wise man. You'll lose every time. I'm out.